you know, there's no such thing as a profile of a school shooter.
Mm.
I think there's a lot of focus on trying to understand the so-called profile, or to simplify it to a single cause like bullying, video games, or whatever it may be. And based on my research, there's an incredible diversity among school shooters in terms of why they're doing the attack, their family backgrounds, their life histories, their personalities, how popular they are, how academically skilled they are, where they fall in terms of intellectual ability, athletic ability. You see all kinds of kids committing these attacks.
Mm.
And that's an important one because we have to understand there's a lot of different factors that put someone on this path. It's not just any one simple thing. It's also important to recognize, because if we think we know what a school shooter looks like, and there's a warning sign from a kid who just doesn't fit our notion, it could be captain of the football team or even a popular cheerleader, because sometimes girls do these attacks too. If we think we know what a school shooter looks like, we could minimize the warning signs because we just don't take them as seriously if it's from a kid who doesn't fit our profile. Well, I've been studying school shooters for over 20 years now, and this has become the focus of my career. And one of the frustrating things with a lot of the coverage of school shooters is how much it focuses on external things. And not that they're not important or that they don't have some role, but two of the main ideas about school shooters is they're reacting to bullies or they're influenced by violent media, video games, etc. And there may be some truth to those things, but those are both external to the shooters. Certainly everything's an interaction between what's going on inside and what happens to us externally, but I think there's been far more focus on the externals and not enough focus on what's going on inside the shooter. To take Dylan Klebold for an example, even with a loving, supportive, involved family, there was a lot going on inside him that he kept secret and nobody had a clue about. And I think we need to do more to tap into what's going on inside our kids, because that's so important. Now, in this case with Carl Pearson, it's not that there were no warning signs. The student may not have been aware of the warning signs, but Carl Pearson, who committed his attack December 13th, 2013, had made a homicidal threat to a teacher at school on September 3rd that year. And the school knew about it and they conducted a threat assessment. And at that point, they decided Carl was a low-level risk. Now, between September 3rd and December 13th, there were other warning signs. And sometimes the students saw them, other times teachers didn't necessarily know Carl was planning an attack. They didn't know that, but they were afraid of Carl, put off by his rage. Carl talked about having bought a gun, and he nicknamed his gun Kurt Cobain, which is ominous because Kurt Cobain killed himself. He would make comments like, if a student got him angry, don't make me get Kurt Cobain. He talked about his hit list and would say things to students who got him mad. All right, that does it. Now you're on the list. There were students who were living in fear that Carl would bring a gun to school and do a school shooting. So the student who sent that question in may not have been aware of the warning signs, but that doesn't mean there were no warning signs. And that's a key point, because our best way of preventing an impending attack is to know the warning sign, for people to communicate the idea of see something, say something, to have the school do an investigation based on the reports that come in, either from students or staff, because typically there are warning signs along the way, and we need to be more sensitive to them as a society to catch things before they happen. I just want to express how devastating these attacks are for that student who sat there and's been haunted by this. These attacks just devastate communities for years and years, not just the direct victims, but anyone in that school, in that community. The question of how someone can look fine one day as he's planning mass murder the next day. You know, Carl had written in his journal, "I'm a psychopath with a superiority complex."
Mm.
And psychopaths are not only very narcissistic and callous and maybe even sadistic, but some of them are very skilled at conning people. And that's called impression management. They know how to make a good impression when they want to. So if you think of what a con artist is, someone who can earn your trust and then take advantage of you or exploit you financially or whatever it may be, that ability to con people makes it very difficult to know, who's at risk if they're really skilled at keeping things quiet. Now, as I said, Carl Pearson did leave a trail of warning signs, but for a lot of people, they didn't see that. They saw the smiling Carl, who seemed like an okay kid. We would think we would know a mass murderer if we were sitting next to him in class, and we don't necessarily have the ability to see that, especially if they're determined not to let anyone see it. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what mental health issues looks like, what mental illness means. People may think they could recognize it if they see it. Certainly, if my child had mental health issues, I would know as a caring parent, and that's not really the case. Kids, anyone, especially teenagers though, may be very good at hiding what's going on inside, either out of embarrassment, they don't want people to know, they're trying to put on a brave face. But we could be going to school with or interacting on a daily basis with people with significant mental health struggles and not know it because of their ability to put on that brave face to look like they're doing okay. As a nation, we have done a good job of training people in reacting to an attack with lockdown drills, emergency response procedures, and so on. But that's the reactive piece. Where we're lagging behind as a nation is the proactive piece, meaning schools need to have threat assessment teams set up in their schools. They need to be trained. You need the policies and procedures. This has to be something that every school has in place for that time. And it may be a rare incident when there is a serious homicidal threat, they know how to respond and investigate. So we've done fine with the reactive piece. We're not up to speed with the proactive piece.